Trash like you doesn't belong behind a rig like this. You stole it and you're busted. Deputy Roar slammed Imani against the front grille of her own truck, twisting her arm hard enough to bruise as the dash cam vibrated above them. Charity shipment, he sneered, eyeing the sealed trailer like it was already evidence. His partner stepped in close, cuffs snapping open beside her ear, probably stuffed with something dirty. Gravel ground beneath her boots as his grip tightened, meant to intimidate, meant to degrade. Roar leaned in, breath hot with certainty. He thought he was breaking a trucker. He had no idea he'd just laid hands on a former Delta Force commander trained to end threats exactly like him. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Route 23 as Imani re-guided her 18-wheeler through Pine Hollow County. The sealed trailer behind her carried medical supplies bound for a veterans charity 2 states over. The dash cam's tiny red light blinked steadily on her windshield. Imani kept her speed exactly at the limit. Hands at 10 and 2, discipline that had become second nature long before she'd started driving trucks. Blue and red lights exploded in her side mirror. The patrol car's lights strode closer, and she eased her rig onto the gravel shoulder, positioning it carefully to keep the dash cam's view clear. 2 deputies emerged. The taller one swaggered toward her cab, hand resting casually on his belt. His partner circled wide, positioning himself on her blind side. Out of the truck, the tall deputy barked before she could reach for her license. Hands where we can see them. Deputy Roar, she read from his nameplate, keeping her voice steady. I have my documentation right here. I set out. Roar's face twisted. Unless you want to explain where you stole this rig from. Stolen? Imani kept her tone neutral, even as her mind cataloged details. No request for license. No statement of cause. No radio call-in of their location. You heard him, the second deputy, Breener, cut in. Out. Now. Wrong county to be playing games after dark. It wasn't even close to dark yet. Imani noted that too as she complied, movements deliberate and smooth. Roar grabbed her arm immediately, shoving her toward the side of the trailer. Hands on the metal. Spread them. Imani planted her feet, absorbing the push while scanning the empty road. No witnesses. No buildings. No cell signal. This stretch of highway felt owned, claimed territory rather than public road. Running awful nice equipment for a long haul, Breener said, circling closer, hand drifting to his holster. Bet there's quite a story there. The story's in my paperwork. Everything's in order. We'll be the judge of that, Roar said, starting an exaggerated pat down, hands lingering too long. Awful mouthy for someone in your position. Imani focused on her breathing. The positioning wasn't random. They'd done this before, one to search, one to obstruct, working together to control what could be seen from the road. Papers don't match, Roar announced, though he hadn't even looked at them. Going to need to check that trailer. It's sealed. Charity shipment. Medical supplies. That what you're calling it? Breener's laugh had an ugly edge. Could be anything in there. Imani watched Roar circle the trailer, seal cutters gleaming in his hand. His eyes had the hungry look of someone who'd already decided what he was going to find. This wasn't a traffic stop. It was a hunting pattern. Fish for an excuse. Plan evidence if needed. Split the proceeds later. Metal screeched against metal as Roar worked the cutters against the seal. Breener's fingers dug into Imani's arm, trying to force her still. His stance was sloppy. All show, no substance. You're going to regret making this difficult, Breener hissed. Should have just played nice. Imani took a slow breath. The cab door hung open at just the right angle. Breener's weight was too far forward. Roar had turned his back completely. Amateur mistakes. She moved in one fluid motion, dropped her shoulder, twisted her wrist to the gap in Breener's grip, and used his own forward momentum to pivot him straight into the door frame. His head snapped back with a hollow thunk. Before he could recover, she had his arm locked behind him against the truck's cab. Roar spun at the sound, dropping the cutters, hand going for his weapon. Imani was faster. She kicked Breener's legs out, dropping him face first into the gravel, rolled sideways as Roar charged. His wild grab met empty air. She caught his extended arm, redirected his momentum, and drove him down beside his partner. No punches thrown, just precise application of force and leverage. "Don't move," she said quietly, one knee pressed into Roar's back. She retrieved a hidden handcuff key from her boot. Old habits died hard, and secured his wrist with his own cuffs. "Assaulting officers," Breener wheezed. "You're done. You're so done." Imani secured him just as efficiently, then triggered her dash cam secondary audio recording. "Let's talk about why you really stopped me." No cameras running. No radio calls. No probable cause. Imani listed calmly, almost like you were told to keep this quiet. Breener's face went still. Roar's neck flushed red. "We were told you'd be alone out here." Breener spat, then immediately clamped his mouth shut. "Told by whom?" "You don't get to leave with that load." Roar growled. "Not from our county. Not with what's riding on it." Both confessions captured cleanly on audio. She pulled their keys and popped the patrol car's trunk. The evidence of their real operation lay organized in neat rows. Plastic baggies, spare gloves, an extra badge without a number, and paper clipped to a folder, a crisp photo of her stepping down from her cab at the way station 40 miles back. The timestamp showed yesterday afternoon. They'd been hunting her specifically. She tried 911. The dispatcher answered with syrupy sweetness, gave no standard questions, just told her stay put. No sirens followed, no radio chatter, just that sugary voice telling her to stay still, like a spider encouraging a fly to wait in its web. A low rumble grew in the distance. Multiple sets of headlights crested the hill, running dark, no light bars, no sirens. For SUVs flowing down the highway like oil. Both deputies started laughing. Imani moved fast, dragging the cuffed deputies behind her trailer's bulk. She pulled their body cameras, copied the footage to her encrypted phone, uploaded everything to her dead man drop, a secure server that would release everything if she didn't check in. She grabbed both radios, wedged them under the trailer, on open mics to catch whatever came next. Static crackled, then voices cut through. "Got eyes on the truck. Clean this up fast. Sheriff van wants no traces. Sheriff Hollis van." The name clicked into place like a round being chambered. She had maybe 2 minutes. She slipped into her cab, engine already running. Her rig rolled forward, gathering speed. The SUVs accelerated trying to cut her off, but she had momentum and 18 wheels to their fore. They couldn't risk ramming her without exposing themselves. She drove steadily, not too fast, not too slow. Just another truck on a dark road. 20 minutes later, she pulled into a pilot travel center, its floodlights creating a pool of harsh brightness. Other trucks lined the lot. Witnesses, cameras, safety in numbers. She examined her cab and found scratch marks around the latch. Someone had tried to plant something while she'd been paying for fuel earlier. Sloppy work, rushed by her early departure. She pulled out a burner phone and dialed a number from memory. "Preet's Auto. We're closed. I'm calling about the veterans discount." Imani said, the code phrase from her network. "Who vouched?" "Marcus Turner. Third group." When the voice returned, it was low and cautious. "I'm Preach. What's your situation?" She gave him the bullet points. The stop, the deputies, the SUVs, Sheriff Van's name. "You need to leave," Preach said heavily. "This county eats outsiders, especially ones who fight back. Van's got judges in his pocket, deputies on his leash, enough friends to make problems vanish." Imani watched the sun setting, painting the sky in deep purples and bloody reds. Running meant leaving others vulnerable, meant letting predators keep their badges, meant looking away. She started her engine. "I'm going to need directions to the county courthouse." "They own the dark here," Preach warned. "Then I'll make them face me in the light." The morning sun streamed through the courthouse's tall windows. Imani stood at the clerk's counter, complaint form and thumb drive placed deliberately in front of her. The clerk's smile didn't reach her eyes. "We don't take complaints like that without an appointment. It's policy." "Show me where that policy is written." A desk sergeant appeared, badge reading Matthews, squaring his shoulders. "What seems to be the problem?" "I need to file a complaint about deputies Roar and Breener. Illegal stop and attempted theft yesterday evening." Matthews made a show of shuffling papers. Can't seem to find those forms. System's been acting up. Maybe try the county seat 40 miles over. He smirked. Behind the counter, phones flashed. Someone taking her picture. A clerk texted immediately. A security guard suddenly found his radio very interesting. We get all kinds through here. An officer announced loudly, especially certain drivers who don't know their place on our roads. Laughter rippled through the lobby. Imani didn't react. She commanded missions where a single wrong move meant death. These small-town power plays were amateur hour. I'd like to speak with Judge Kittage. The laughter stopped dead. A woman in her early 30s approached the counter. Messenger bag over her shoulder, press pass half hidden under her jacket. Quick, observant eyes. Are you Imani Ree? She asked quietly when Matthew stepped away. Who's asking? Mina DeWart, investigative podcast. I've been looking into this county for months. She pulled out her phone, showed a spreadsheet. These are missing drivers, mostly black and brown. All disappeared along the same corridor over the past 2 years. Local cops claim no records, but the pattern speaks for itself. Imani studied the names and dates. Before she could respond, the main entrance opened and Sheriff Hollis, van swept in like a politician working a room. Crisp uniform, practiced warm smile, moving through the lobby shaking hands, calling people by name, each interaction a perfect reminder of who controlled their comfort, their careers, their security. Then Van turned, and his eyes met Imani's. No surprise, no confusion, just calm recognition. His smile never wavered. "Welcome to Pine Hollow," he said, voice carrying across the silent lobby. "I don't believe we've had the pleasure." He extended his hand. The gesture wasn't friendly. It was a challenge, a public move, forcing her to either accept his dominance or mark herself hostile. Imani kept her hands at her sides, neither accepting nor refusing, just standing her ground, face composed, eyes steady. She'd faced down warlords and cartel bosses. This man was dangerous, but he wasn't unique. The moment stretched, heavy with tension. Van's smile remained fixed, but something cold flickered in his eyes. The look of a man unused to having his authority questioned in his own courthouse. Outside on the courthouse steps, Van followed her, footsteps unhurried. "Miss Ree, a moment of your time." His badge caught the sunlight, a deliberate flash of authority. "I pride myself on knowing every professional driver who comes through Pine Hollow. Perhaps we could discuss your concerns somewhere more private." He gestured toward a black SUV idling nearby. "I'll file my complaint. Cold paperwork doesn't solve problems like a good conversation can." He lowered his voice. "Besides, I'd hate to see your rig held up by inspections. They happen so randomly these days." From the corner of her eye, Imani spotted Mina partially hidden behind a courthouse pillar. Phone raised. Smart woman. "Is that an offer or a threat, Sheriff?" "Now, why would you take it that way?" Van spread his hands. "Wounded innocence. I'm trying to help. These roads can be dangerous for outsiders who don't understand local ways. I understand plenty." His eyes hardened slightly, though his smile held. "You seem like someone about to make things harder than they need to be." "Harder for whom?" Van chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You drive safe now. God bless." He turned and walked away. Back at her rig, Imani found fresh boot prints near her trailer and scratch marks around the cargo seal. They were documenting it, building whatever story they planned to tell. At Preach's auto shop, the old mechanic was waiting, expression grim. "County uses these roads like their personal ATM," he said, pouring coffee. "Traffic stops, civil forfeiture, fines that vanish if you know who to pay. But it's more than money. They target folks who don't fit their idea of who belongs here." She'd barely taken her first bite of the sandwich Preach offered when the siren started. Red and blue lights strobed through the window. Deputies swarmed the property, weapons drawn. Tools crashed into floor, drawers ripped open, filing cabinets tipped. A deputy crouched near Imani's tire well, pointing at small plastic bags lying suspiciously clean against the rubber. They hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. The staged discovery was almost insulting in its obviousness. Imani pulled latex gloves from her pocket. She'd learned long ago to carry them, and photographed everything. The bags, their placement, The deputy's position. Way I see it, a deputy growled, tobacco on his breath. You're leaving here in cuffs. Only question is whether you walk or get dragged. The shop lights flickered twice, then died. Only swirling emergency colors remained, every shadow looking like a threat. Preach stepped between Imani and the deputies. This is my property. You're overstepping. The lead deputy grabbed him, slamming him against a metal wall, clicking handcuffs around his wrists. Unnecessarily tight. Imani's combat instincts coiled, but she forced herself still. One swing was all they needed. She could already see the headlines. Violent trucker assaults officers during routine inspection. Instead, she reached for a different weapon. Badge number 4479. She said, clearly, you're conducting a warrantless search without probable cause or consent. Please state your reasonable suspicion for the record. She turned. Officer Martinez, badge 5582. You detained a property owner for requesting identification during an unannounced search. Department policy requires you to document your justification. She raised her phone. I'd like both of you to repeat your probable cause slowly and clearly, please. The deputies exchanged glances. Their script hadn't prepared them for someone who knew the rules better than they did. We're done here, the lead deputy announced, trying to salvage authority. He unlocked Preach's cuffs roughly, shoved a citation into his chest, and retreated, boots crunching on the tools they'd scattered. The power flickered back on. The planted bag still sat near Imani's truck, a silent threat. The pre-dawn air was heavy with humidity when she pulled into a 24-hour diner. Mina's car was already there. I can help, Mina said immediately. We blur faces, distort voices, protect sources, but people need to hear what happened on that road. Imani studied her face, looking for glory-seeking or recklessness. She found only determined compassion. The locals come first, Imani said firmly. Preach, the diner staff, anyone who might face retaliation, they get protection or we don't move. Agreed. I've got secure channels and numbers for good lawyers. At first light, they documented the untampered trailer seal on camera, then broke it open. Rows of neatly stacked medical supplies, everything matching the manifest. But when Imani ran her hands along the inner wall, her fingers caught a hidden latch. A false panel popped loose. Tucked inside was a small encrypted drive. The label bore the formatting used by veterans' nonprofits for sensitive financial data. This connects to county contracts grant money, where millions in public safety funding really went, Imani said. Mina pulled up her research on her laptop. 3 years ago, Van Department's funding tripled. Same period. Civilian complaints dropped to zero, not declined, vanished completely. They weren't hunting random trucks, Imani said. They knew exactly what load to target. The podcast teaser went live at 6 a.m. 3 minutes of silence. Then Mina's screen exploded. Her account flagged for violations. Copyright claims against audio she hadn't even used. A flood of automated reports. And a message from an unknown number containing only her studio's address, followed by a single question mark. Seconds later, it appeared in local Facebook groups with thinly veiled threats. They work fast, Imani said. Let them think their pressure is working. Meanwhile, we follow the money. That drive isn't just about missing cargo. It's about missing millions. The full episode launched at 10 a.m. Calls poured in within minutes. I'm a waitress at the truck stop, one woman said, voice trembling. I've seen them plant things during routine searches. They make sure we all watch. A former dispatcher spoke in hushed tones. They trained us which calls to drop, said it was resource management, but it was always specific callers, specific situations. They took everything, a driver said my paperwork was suspicious. Never saw my cargo again. A state investigator named Grant Huxley called. His task force had been monitoring similar complaints across 3 counties. He offered protective custody and a secure channel to submit evidence. He invited them to meet at the county administrative annex at sunset. They drove separately. Imani scanned the lot before stepping down from her cab. Exits, cameras, sight lines. 3 unmarked vehicles positioned at strategic points. Huxley's smile was practiced and warm. Thank you for trusting the process. We'll handle this by the book. 2 state troopers emerged from the shadows and moved straight for her truck. We'll need to secure the vehicle first. Safety protocols. I haven't consented to any search. Imani said clearly, "Do you have a warrant?" The troopers continued as if she hadn't spoken. One climbed into the cab. The other blocked Mina's camera with his body. Moments later, the first trooper emerged holding a small plastic bag between glove fingers. Appears to be narcotics. Located under the driver's seat. That's not mine. I did not consent to this search, and I maintain it's unlawful. Even as the cuffs clicked shut, Imani kept her voice steady. This is a planted substance. A coordinated setup using unlawful search procedures. Huxley smoothly lifted her evidence files. I'll make sure these are properly processed. The thumb drive disappeared into his pocket. His calm smile never wavered. At the county jail, the booking process was efficient and impersonal. Forms, fingerprints, possessions logged. Each step felt scripted. Steel doors clanged shut. Through the narrow cell window, she caught Sheriff Van's silhouette in the hallway, watching with the easy confidence of a man in his own theater. In her cell, Imani sat motionless on the thin mattress, back straight, breathing controlled, absorbing every detail. Footstep echoes, camera whirs, the precise timing of guard rotations. Van came to offer his deal. A felony plea. Time served. You leave tonight, never return. Your truck gets released. Everyone sleeps better. No. Van's smile tightened. He made a small gesture. The lights died. The camera recording lights winked out. A guard unlocked her cell and slammed her against the wall, forearm at her shoulders, careful to leave no marks. You think your lawyer and your reporter friend make you untouchable? He hissed. Women like you never learn. Imani counted seconds, noted every detail. This wasn't improvised. It was rehearsed intimidation designed to break spirits without leaving evidence. Exactly 3 minutes later, the lights hummed back on. The guard stepped away. Van reappeared. Think about my offer. Things tend to get uncomfortable for people who refuse my hospitality. Her phone lit up with messages the moment her items were returned. Mina. Studio being raided. Hard drive seized. Preach's sister. Eli arrested. Shop padlocked. Her attorney. Judge Keitage suddenly unavailable. And most alarming, her dead man drop server had been accessed. Someone was trying to scrub the uploads. They were isolating her, cutting every avenue of resistance. But in doing so, they revealed something crucial. Every time Van appeared, the same sequence played out. Lights down, cameras off. Exactly 3 minutes. A pattern board of arrogance and routine. As predictable as sunrise. She wasn't counting hours. She was counting minutes between camera cycles, mapping the rhythms of a system that thought itself invincible. In the morning, she reported chest tightness and numbness in her left arm. The nurse arrived. Forms were filled, timestamps logged, a paper trail she needed. A trustee mopping the corridor had a faded military tattoo. She slipped a folded note to the gap beneath her door, map coordinates and a veteran emergency code phrase that would trigger her rig's hidden GPS beacon. The trustee's foot slid away without breaking stride. The nurse returned with transfer papers. County General. Cardiac protocol. 2 guards cuffed her and led her to a transport van in the gray dawn. The van took wrong turns from the first. 3 turns away from the direct route to County General. Not main roads, back roads. At a railroad, Cross and the guard stepped out briefly. In those seconds, Imani activated her rig's remote beacon. 3 quick pulses. Activate. Broadcast. Emergency protocol. Mina's laptop pinged instantly, and her live stream lit up. Signal detected. Timestamp everything. Build the timeline. The van's radio crackled. Unit 217. Redirect. Proceed to Morgan Event Center. Code for Alpha. The younger guard shifted uncomfortably. But the hospital. Those are orders, Martinez said, but his knuckles whitened on the wheel. Through the mesh windows, Imani saw campaign posters on every telephone pole. Sheriff Van, leadership you can trust. Television vans clustered outside the event center, satellite dishes raised. Campaign banners draped the entrance. Safety, family, faith. Van had arranged a public prayer breakfast. and he wanted his victory lap with a handcuffed prisoner as his prop. She stepped down into the light, chain between her ankles clinking, spine straight, no stumbling. She faced the cameras with the same calm she'd carried through firefights and ambushes. Backstage, Van stood before a mirror adjusting his silk tie. A man who'd mastered the art of looking trustworthy. Deputy Roar, wearing a theatrical wrist bandage, jerked at her cuffs. Keep moving, troublemaker. Judge Lorraine Kittage entered through a side door, face drawn tight. Her eyes swept the hallway. Deputies posturing, Van's calculated calm, Imani's restraints, and then Preach being dragged into another door, wrist shackled, his mechanic's uniform wrinkled and stained. A respected community elder paraded in chains like a medieval spectacle. Something in Kitage's carefully maintained distance cracked. Applause thundered as Van stepped through the curtain, voice booming through the sound system. My friends, my neighbors, we gather today to reaffirm our commitment to lawfulness and order. Just yesterday, our deputies apprehended a dangerous individual who thought our laws didn't apply. A small red light began blinking on the main audio board. The technician frowned. Static crackled. The giant screen behind Van flickered. His campaign slogan dissolved into grainy nighttime footage. Red and blue lights, Route 23. Deputies Roar and Breener moving toward Imani's truck. Now, folks, Van said smoothly, I'm sure there's just some technical. The deputies' voices cut through crystal clear. Where'd you steal this rig from? Wrong county after dark, when you say? Gasps rippled through the crowd as they watched Breener force Imani to her knees in the gravel. Every crude comment, every threat played out in high definition. A prominent church donor in the front row covered her mouth. The screen split deputy trunk inventory, evidence baggies, spare gloves, the surveillance photo of Imani. Mina's steady narration laid out each piece. Pre-planned targeting, systematic harassment, pattern of predatory stops. State representatives edged toward the exits. A county commissioner buried his face in his hands. News crews swung cameras from Van to the screen and back, capturing his increasingly strained smile. The next file appeared, spreadsheets, bank records, property deeds, money flowing from traffic stops to shell companies, shell company directors matching Van's family members, property purchases dated to major drug seizures. Men and women in dark suits entered quietly along the walls. State agents, summoned by mounting public pressure, and Judge Kitage's emergency orders. Van's voice rose into a preacher's righteous tone. My friends, we're witnessing an attack on law and order itself. Imani stepped onto the stage, still in handcuffs. Her presence commanded the room. The deputies flanking her suddenly looked unsure. Chain of custody is maintained for all recordings, she said, precise and professional. Dash cam footage, body cameras, and dispatch log reserved with timestamps. The pattern of 3-minute camera outages during sheriff visits is documented across multiple dates. The medical supplies in my trailer were covered for financial documents meant to expose county contract fraud, which is why an illegal stop was arranged using my photo from a compromised way station camera. Van grabbed the microphone. This woman attacked officers. She's a criminal trying to... The officers were recorded admitting they were told I'd be alone. Imani continued calmly. Their trunk contained prepackaged evidence. Dispatch logs show a coordinated non-response. Judge Kitage assigned an order confirming probable cause for a full investigation. The state agents moved forward, converging on the stage. This is a mistake, Van announced, voice losing its polish. I've served this county faithfully for... Sheriff Hollis Van. An agent reached for handcuffs. You're under arrest for conspiracy, corruption under color of authority, and multiple counts of civil rights violations. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the cuffs clicked around Van's wrists. His campaign banner still hung above the stage. Safety, family, faith, now reading like an indictment. This is what happens. Van tried one last time. When we let outsiders into our... No. Judge Kitage's voice rang out as she stood. This is what happens when we finally stop letting fear silence the truth. The agents read Van his rights through the sound system he'd arranged for his own glory. His practiced smile cracked completely, revealing the rage and panic beneath. He looked desperately toward his deputies, but they stepped back, already calculating their own survival. Deputies Rohr and Briner were brought in through separate doors, arrogance collapsing into panic as the depth of their situation became clear. Their badges were removed. Across the room, an agent carefully unlocked Preet's restraints. The old mechanic rubbed his wrists, dignity intact. His eyes met Amani's, a quiet nod between warriors who'd held their ground. Judge Keitage signed official dismissals at a folding table, hand moving with decisive strokes. Case dismissed with prejudice due to documented misconduct and unlawful search. She did the same for Preet's file, then began reviewing a stack of others marked for priority examination. State investigators moved through the space with purpose, all county records being seized immediately. Missing persons cases from this corridor are being reopened. We're establishing a dedicated task force to review every traffic stop, every seizure, every complaint that was buried. Someone thrust a microphone toward Amani. She shook her head. Instead, she spoke directly to the investigators. What matters is concrete change. Body camera audits, preservation of dispatch logs, independent oversight of traffic stops. This isn't about speeches. It's about making sure no one else gets hunted on these roads. Imani walked to the parking lot, boots crunching on gravel still wet with dew. Her rig sat where she'd left it, surrounded now by evidence tape and protective barriers. The driver's door opened with its usual creak. She placed her hand on the steering wheel, feeling the worn grip spots that had become home. This wasn't just a truck anymore. It was proof that running and hiding weren't the only options. Sometimes standing your ground could change the ground itself. Mina appeared beside the cab, phone lowered. What happens now? They'll probably want you to testify. First, I drive. Imani said simply, these roads don't belong to them anymore. They need to see trucks rolling through, carrying witnesses instead of targets. She settled into the seat. I'll keep moving until the road stops being a hunting ground. The engine rumbled to life, a sound of purpose rather than escape. Morning sunlight caught the trailer's sides, making the charity logo gleam. Other trucks were pulling into the lot now. Word spread through driver networks, and they'd come to see justice with their own eyes. Imani released a brake and eased forward, her rig moving with deliberate confidence. She wasn't running from Pine Hollow County. She was leading the way through it, showing others it could be done. The road ahead stretched clean and clear, belonging to everyone again. Behind her, the event center continued its transformation into a place of reckoning. But ahead, through the windshield, lay miles of asphalt that would carry different stories now. Stories of standing ground, of justice served, of roads reclaimed from those who tried to own them.